Yes. Whoa, and the tips come right off.
Cheers. Welcome to Portland.
I don't know another bar. Neither do I got a donut infused cocktail with a donut on top. Wow. I arrived in Portland just in time for a funky dinner at a funky bar. And now I'm waking up right on the river to a wonderful foggy morning view. And I'm excited to be here. What are you doing?
Right near Lake Oswego, Oregon. We're going on a boat ride.
Yeah. We're heading to the waterfalls. So after a wonderful evening dinner with John Emmett and Tim Thomas, talking about all kinds of nerdy gemology stuff, I'm in Portland with my new buddy Blake Bamford, and he's gonna show me the Willamette building, which is the gem and jewelry building of downtown Portland. So
this was a military recruiter office for a long time, and they had a dental. But there's always a jeweler, Jensen Jewelers. There's on Broadway. They'll bring their jobs here for the trade shops to do.
wow.
And I'm the room to Oscar the Gold Buyers at. This is all of Portland Brewery Academy. It's a really, really nice school.
Okay.
This building has been a jewelry building for over 100 years, and it's been all jewelry tenants, so jewelry industry, so it's all like gold buyers and gem dealers and cutters, manufacturers. The whole industry has been in this building.
Right now we're in Portland, Oregon, Southwest 3rd and Washington. Over here is Alder Street, and essentially what we explained is the building, the Willamette building, primarily all fine jewelry. It's the epicenter of Portland's jewelry scene, right in the heart of the center of all the bustling action. And
Yeah.
so this is where all the action happens.
Yeah. One concentrated block of gems and jewelry and everything. Used to like at this little Portland's oldest restaurant.
Yeah, it's like birds. I mean, the history is great.
After a relaxed Saturday morning of working on a new talk about the history of gem cutting and the history of mixology, my next day of Portland exploration has begun, and I am currently at Ed's House of Rocks. It looks pretty cool. I like the painted sign, but when we see the other side of the building, it's actually even cooler with all the inlaid, polished slabs that are in the wall. After a cool stop at Ed's House of Gems, I'm now ready for my second rock shop of the morning, which is Portland Rocks. So I've just crossed the river into Vancouver, Washington for my last gem rock shop of the day, Hanley's. Let's check it out. My final tourist stop of today is the Rice Museum. Now, I was here back in January or February or whenever it was that I was here, so I got to see it already, but I only got to see it on a day where it was closed, so I wanted to come check it out. One thing I always love seeing here, Fred Van Sant's personal and homemade fastening machine. Very cool, very unique, very Fred Van Sant, I guess. And they've got a class, that's so cool. Taught by friends.
And the reason, it's like, well, why don't they put pinhole lenses on cameras? The reason is because you don't get as much light in the shop shot through a pinhole camera.
Yeah, my vlog is gonna have your shop through the pinhole camera. That's what this video is. No one's ever seen a Facetron through a pinhole camera before.
Okay, so this is a Mark I Graves fastening machine that was owned by the father of Carl Sitek.
It's Sunday morning. I've had an awesome time so far. Every single day has just been action-packed all day till midnight or 1 a.m. Just super great conversations. But today, I really start the deep research on the ancient Portland, the 1930s and 40s Portland that has so much to do with the history of American gemstone cutting. And so what I'm checking out today is H.C. Dake, whose dentist office was right up there above what is now the Dragonfly. He Where did he write all those letters when he was the manager of the Mineralogist magazine? Where was he doing all of his corresponding and his deep thinking before they actually had an office for the magazine? And it was all right here. So 2385 Thurman in Northwest Portland. This is where Dake had his dental practice. So he was a dentist by day, mineralogist by night. You know, see the doorstep that he probably walked on every day on his way to work, and the stairs that he went up to every day. Sadly, there is no Dake on here today.
You know, he wrote a pretty comprehensive book about uranium and atomic
Oh my
power.
God, I just had my mind completely blown. I just visited two members of the Oregon Agate and Mineral Society, Sonia and Colin. So the Oregon Agate and Mineral Society started back in 1933, and its first president was H.C. Dake, the guy who ran the Mineralogist and one of the main characters in the story that I'm researching. And they had all the club's historical items, and I just could not believe what they showed me. They had 3 or 4 scrapbooks that H.C. Dake himself made, full of all of the newspaper clippings and photos and club memorabilia, and it was just unbelievable, like so much more than I could have ever imagined. So this was Dake's personal scrapbook, it looks like. He was, when he was at the Couch Building, working on, April 1935. Up to date. So, and then she pulled out a box of his actual stones that he cut, cabs that were his fluorescent mineral collection. Tell me what are we looking at here?
So these were Dr. Dake's. He cut and polished them himself.
So these are his notes, personal notes.
Well, I don't know, somebody.
Cut and polished by Dr. Dake. 33 to.
Is that his handwriting? I poured you.
Okay, so he was definitely, so this definitely is the proof. He was cutting his stones, and we can see what he was doing. All different forms, shapes, sizes. Wow. So, yeah, he's thinking about the fluorescence as well. He's getting, these are all fluorescent?
Yes, this is his fluorescent board.
Wow. We went through it for hours. It was just absolutely incredible. Thank you to Sonia and Colin for the time. And now I'm in front of Dake's old house, which is right here on Xavier Street in Northwest Portland, just a couple blocks away from where I just was before, his old dentist office. This is where H.C. Dake lived while he was working at the Mineralogist and writing all of those sweet articles and books and letters to everyone in the mineral community. So this is where it all happened. Dake's house to Dake's office, a 2-minute drive or an 8-minute walk. Not a bad commute. I've driven about 10 minutes from Dake's house, and I'm now in front of the house of Fred S. Young, who was Dake's sort of lapidary partner in crime. He was the guy who was in charge of the Mineralogist gem cutting laboratory, which that really helped to push the art of American gem cutting forward into the modern day of that time. Oftentimes when I visit these old places, we're like 90 years probably after Young lived here, and I just wonder if Fred Young knew that I was at his house 90 years later, what would he think about that? Maybe a little bit weird, I'm not sure. So my final stop for today's exploration of history is a building that no longer exists, a magazine called The Mineralogist, whose location was originally downtown in what was the Couch Building, a building that has been long torn down. And after they moved out of the couch building, they moved over here, which sadly also no longer exists. Now we have this building here, but this is where 329 once stood back in the mid to late 40s. Just kind of catching the vibes and trying to imagine what it might have been like for these guys to come over here. We've pretty much spanned all the quadrants of Portland, Dake's in northwest, Young's in northeast. This mineralogist is in southeast, and I think the couch building that I'm gonna go see tomorrow is in southwest. It's Halloween morning, and I'm in a graveyard. But not just for the spooky atmosphere, it's a specific graveyard with a specific plot that I want to visit in the mausoleum. As I continue on with this journey through time, through space, and especially in moments like this when I'm really reflecting on the influence of our elders, of those cutters that came before us and helped to create the community in which we exist today, I like to think about the influence that one person can have, one person or one group or one club or one cutter, whatever it may be. You know, thinking about Dake, thinking about Fred Young, the Mineralogist magazine back in the 1930s and 40s, and how much influence they had. You know, they couldn't even guess that some 90 years later, I'm here, not just looking at the magazines that they wrote, but, you know, visiting their last resting place and thinking about their lives, thinking about their contributions to American culture in general, and how even in our own personal day, in our own efforts to do whatever it is we're trying to do, we have no idea what impact we're going to have on the future and what legacy and influence that we're going to leave behind. You know, I'm sure for Dake and his wife, they were just doing whatever seemed natural for them, following their passion, following their inspiration, and trying to do something that was interesting and creative and connect with the community around them. And I think in this period of time when connection and community are maybe what we're lacking more than anything else, that it's kind of good to look back, look to the elders, to the influences that came before us, and see what they did, see how they built their communities, see how they lived their lives, and strive to continue what they started. And that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I'm here for today, you know, to remember and to understand, so that as I move forward, as that we move forward, we can try to build upon the community that was here before we even were born. So for my last little bit of mineralogist history this week, I'm at the intersection of 4th and Washington in downtown Portland, and right behind me is a sort of abandoned mall. But if we would go back to the 1940s, what we would see here is a big skyscraper called the Couch Building. Now, the Couch Building was home to the Mineralogist magazine in some of its formational years. It was where the Mineralogist gem cutting laboratory was at. There's a couple of really cool photos from that period. And they were all right here. If we go about 1.5 blocks that way, we're at the Willamette Building, which is the center of the gemstone trade here. So I didn't really realize until I saw where this was how centrally located the Mineralogist was for the gem trade. And it kind of makes me wonder how deep some of those guys were in it. I always just assume the hobbyists and the professional cutters and jewelers were kind of in different universes. Maybe back in the 40s, there was a lot more overlap than we really realized. For trying to get into the spirit of that period of time for Portland, This building seems to be a great example. Would have been definitely here when the mineralogist guys were looking out their windows.
Hey, we're at Misfit Diamonds in Portland, Oregon.
And what are we looking at here?
We've got a bunch of Montana sapphires and some Burma sapphires and Madagascar, Sri Lankan.
I had another amazing day yesterday with the research. I went over to Colin from the Oregon Agate and Mineral Society's house, and he had even more ancient history boxes. We pulled out several more scrapbooks from the 1930s and 40s from the club, photos that no one has ever seen before of Dake in the mineralogist gem cutting laboratory with Fred Young cutting stones. Just like, wow, it's so cool. I cannot wait to share some of this stuff. Yeah, whole collection of, what do you call it? Stained, it's not stained glass.
I call it rock windows.
Rock windows.
And I don't think there's anything like them in existence.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this, so. And then, of course, did a talk at the Columbia Willamette Faceting Guild last night, which was super fun. So we are at the Columbia Willamette meeting, and I just finished my talk, and then somebody brought to show me something very, very unusual. So tell me about this. This is for a very unusual facetron experiment, right?
He made several of them, and this was for a vertical faceting machine. The lap would have been here.
Okay. And the dop would have gone in that hole.
Dop going there. And on this table was a protractor where you could set your angle.
Okay.
And then this was the upside. So if you wanted to set it to 64, there's 64. Tighten down the index wheel, and then you would slide it back and forth.
And then you would just flip it on its side.
Yep, there's the next one.
Today's my last day. It's the afternoon of Wednesday. I had an interview with a miner cutter this morning, and now I am at the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry, OMSI. Okay, there were a few rocks in there, but really I didn't understand. That's a children's museum, so not too interesting. Probably not worth it just to see a few cases of rocks, but okay. A little bit of Portland experience. It's time to get packed up and ready for my next destination, leaving the city tomorrow.